Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Eye podcast. You're very welcome to our review show, and we're looking back at the weekend's action. And delighted to once again be joined by Johnny Murtagh, and we're going to have a wee bit of a different layout than last week's. This we're recording on Sunday morning here, so we're going to go through the Friday and Saturday games, and then me and Johnny's going to be in Mullabone later, for the Mullabone and Killeavy game. So we'll go through all the Sunday games. So first of all, we'll just do it the same as last week. We'll go senior, intermediate, and junior, and we'll go through all the big talking points from Friday and Saturday. And Johnny, big talking points. We're going to Group A. I think this is the obviously the group of death that we spoke about a number of weeks ago. But we had Mahary and Killeavy, and Killeavy won 119, Mahary 213, and Cullerville beat Clonagale 120 to 119. Both coming from impossible positions. It looked like Killeavy were 9 down and Cullerville were 10 down. Both coming to win by 1 point. Killeavy won by 3. I think it was in the end, but
Yeah,
two incredible results on Friday night.
yeah. Look, it absolutely lived up to the billings. We called it after the draw. The Group One was going to be the group of death, and nobody could call any result or write anybody off. And I think Cullerville started off the first week, and then it's just really took off from there. Um, it's like Cullerville has been so refreshing in this championship so far. They've had serious young players that stood up to the mark, and like I anticipated that was going to be the game of the week. Was actually the Mahary and Killeavy game down there, and what Stephen McDonald mustn't have threw at them boys at half time, because I tell you it was some game on Friday night to start us off, for a brilliant weekend of football. Probably look on reflection, probably Stefan Falker leaving the pitch was a big changing point in the game, but you can't take away from Killeavy some serious performances, Sean.
Yeah, you spoke about Stevie at half time, Johnny, and we don't know what was said. Maybe we couldn't repeat on here today what was said, but how much credit does Stevie deserve for turning this around? I think it was 111 to 5 points at half time.
Yeah, well, look, he made a few changes. He brought O'Hanlon out round the middle. He done different things. There was massive performances all over the field, but you know, like, and it was such a funny game because the first half, Murray pressed the kick out, and they're getting such reward. Ben Creeley was turning over ball left, right, and centre, and then it sort of flipped on its head the second half when they were a man down. Creedy doesn't look to be fully fit again. They moved him into full forward and they tried to play that high ball in a few times. Didn't just pan out. And then Killeavy started mopping up around the midfield. They were very, very hungry. I'd say Stephen threw everything at them. They were winning break ball. O'Hanlon was catching ball in the air. They were springboarding up the field. And I tell you what, hey, they could have, like, it's such a crazy game. They could have won the game by 6 or 7 points. They left a couple of bad scores behind them. O'Boyle had a couple of chances even in the first half with frees. They didn't bring up the goalkeeper to hit them. There was a couple of just a wee unusual things. Murray done the same with Falker off the field. And then they looked like they kicked a brilliant 2-pointer from a free when they changed up the free taker as well. It looked like they were going to kick for home. Then Killeavy come back. It was a serious game of football. And fair dues to Steve McDonald. You could see him on the sideline. He was going for every ball with them fellas, and he was encouraging them. He was roaring them along. It was a serious performance. But I wouldn't be writing Murray off in this championship at all. I think they're going to have a big say. I think you get Creeley back fully fit. Stefan was playing very, very well. And if they can just get Aidan Falker back on the pitch as well, they do have a lot that I think they could go very deep in this championship. And I think these games is really going to stand to that Group A, the group of death. There's nobody going to want to see any of these boys coming in the playoff, whether that's Cullerville, Murray, Killeavy. I tell you what, it's going to be helter-skelter in there. It's a serious group.
Yeah, that's the thing. The playoffs are just going to be crazy because of the amount of big teams we're going to have in them. But plans in Cullerville, Johnny, Cullerville, obviously, you said one of the stories of the championship so far, coming from 10 behind and Fergal Kieran kicking a huge 2-pointer at the end of this one to win the game. Clans, I think they're going to Killeavy next week. They haven't won a game yet, Johnny. Like they're in trouble of dropping out here. So it's a big weekend next weekend, and this was a huge result on Saturday night between the two.
It was absolutely massive, and like you're nearly looking in a scenario like Tully Saran, which we'll touch on later on. But you have a team that's been around the fringes of a county championship and in a county championship final, and all of a sudden the backs is to the wall. Like that. That's how tough this group is. The backs now is to the wall after Killeavy turning things around. Killeavy's been the story of the championship so far for me. They've really kicked on from the 21s last year, and there's not too many people that have seen this coming. A lot of people would have wrote them off going into this group, but I tell you what, hey, they've come out swinging and they've turned things dramatically around. Yesterday was unbelievable. Like Kieran with a couple of 2-pointers, McCreesh hitting 2-pointer. They've got massive results. Like it has to be. I said actually in a message last night. Like Callum O'Neill for me is a massive miss. For Clonagale, and he's one of these exciting players that we've seen in the championship the last couple of years, even at a young age. But he's bringing that intensity into it. He's bringing pace all over the field. Another player is probably similar to Darren McMullen type player, a link man, getting on a lot of ball, but can finish as well. Gets, and he takes a lot of pressure off. For me, the Clonagale forward line doesn't have enough. Like they're heavy relying on Stefan. I think Stefan got 8 or 9 points. Again, Killeavy. That's a massive haul, like, on his own. But he needs a bit of help. And this is the thing that's coming to haunt Clonagale for me. The couple of young fellas there, a couple of Campbells and different things, thought that maybe they're going to kick on this year, but they probably need something to take a wee bit of the weight off Stefan at his age, and like to come out with kicking 9 points is unbelievable. Like, but Callum O'Neill's a massive miss for them for me. So
He's
we
been huge.
yeah, he's been instrumental to them, and it's no wonder, to be honest, Sean, that they've struggled a wee bit in certain departments when he's not there. Like Shane McParlin and Stefan can only do so much of the heavy lifting, and they have a couple of good defenders in there. They're good lads, but they're not just, they haven't kicked on, and now they're at the risk of going out in the championship.
Yeah, it leaves next week's Group A games absolutely unbelievable. Now we haven't done the math on it, to see what the permutations are, but it's going to be Killeavy and Clans, Killeavy at home, and Mahary going to Culliville. So two absolutely huge games in Group A. We'll go to Group D then, Johnny, because we were talking about the comeback kings of Killeavy and Culliville. We've seen it in Carcroppen as well. They beat the Harps, coming from 10 down. 218 to not 22. And not only that, Johnny, coming back from a 23-point defeat to Clonard last week, like this is a massive, massive result for Carcroppen, and you have to give them huge credit.
Yeah, and we do give them huge credit. I actually couldn't believe it. Like we spoke about it last week with Clonard, and I was actually surprised with the, like I said to you, but the physicality and the height and everything that Cruppen has. I just thought they didn't utilize it enough. Like in saying that, Clonard's the favourites for a reason for the championship. Like they're a top outfit, but I just think that maybe Cruppen maybe set up wrong again them last week, and they've learned their lessons this week. And I tell you what, that was a serious win, because Harps have been really, really improving towards the tail end of the league that we've seen. We've covered games, and the same in the championship. Harps for me look dangerous, and they look like a black horse, a dark horse to win the championship, along with probably I call it Mahary, another dark horse. So, and they do have it in their pedigree to win a championship. But Jesus, I tell you what, that was some win. It was some win. There was a battle of the Cuses. The battle of the Cuses down there, and do you know what? It's again, you're probably looking at yourself going, right, Group A was a tough one. Now we're coming in the next week, and we have another serious Group A materialising as well, and it's going to be very hard. Another big team is going to be dumped out of the championship very quick, Sean.
Yeah, and Clonard, they beat Drummond Hill. They made it 2 from 2, 214 to 2-8. Just quickly, calculations off the top of my head, John, I think that's them top of the group. No, sorry, they play the Harps next week, so if the Harps beat them, the Harps will be on 4 points alongside them and will have the head to head on them. So that group's not sorted yet, but Clonard not as eye catching as last week, maybe Johnny, but still 6 point winners against Drummond. I think they were
Yeah,
one up at half time, so they pushed on a bit in the second half.
it actually panned out as it must have been. I didn't get to see the game, but it must have been defensive enough because after what they done last week, it was actually, it wasn't that big a scoring compared to what we seen. So it must have been tight enough affair throughout. Look at it's probably a wee bit workman like, Drummond He's going in now to the last week. Obviously it's them and them and Cruppen with a serious game now. And whoever wins that will come out on top. Probably on the head to head, isn't that right, Sean?
Yeah, it depends on the other game too. If Clonard beat the Harps and Drummond beat Carcruppen, then Harps, Carcruppen and Drummond will all be on 2 points. As far as I know, so and we're early Sunday morning here, Johnny. I'm trying to work all this out, but it could be crazy.
Yeah, well, I have to put these on you. You're the main man, so like, look at it. But look at it again. It's crazy. Like this is what you're dealing with coming into the groups. In fairness, have really lived up to the billings. Now, I'm going to mention something later on. Probably in after I want to see. I really want to see this game later on, and I might mention an idea later on that we might spin off in the later part of the day. But look, we cross that bridge and we come to it. But yeah, just a couple of notes here. Like you're looking at that. I tell you, I can't call it. That's being honest with you. I can't call who's gonna who's gonna go out of this group. Because one thing I know about Drummond when the backs is to the wall, they have a serious habit of delivering. Whenever you think they're rooting off, and they're a young team. And we've seen topsy-turvy performances, like I said, with the first day with Cruppen, with Harps, this weekend. So I tell you what, I can't call who's gonna be dumped out of this group, but it's gonna be a serious weekend next weekend of football.
Yeah, it's brilliant for that group. It's going right down to the final day. That's what we want. That's what the group stages provide, and we hope that every group sort of goes like that. We'll go to Group C then, Johnny. This was Crossmaglen going to St. Peter's on Friday night. They come home with the 2 points, 116 to 115. Rain O'Neill got the last point to win the game and to save the Rangers, really. I suppose this was a tricky one for Cross, Johnny, going down to Lurgan, St. Peter's on a high, having beat Silverbridge the week before. They're relegated to intermediate next year, so St. Peter's really had nothing to lose here. So you'd imagine, and I didn't get seeing the game, but you'd imagine St. Peter's really just threw the kitchen sink across. So it was a big win given the circumstances.
Yeah, look, it was a good win away from home. There's no point in saying it's been very workmanlike from Cross. It was the same in Grahamore last week. I said that on the pod last week. I thought both teams was poor enough. But there was big performance. Like, it was great to see the big man back and doing what he does. He kicked an unbelievable 2-pointer as well to get Cross probably to tie it up, and then he kicked the winner in injury time. But there was a couple of big performances. There was also Liam Blessing took an awful hit as well, running Darren Finnan. Got stitches right across the top of the head, and a stitch here as well. He's as hard as nails. I was chatting him last night after the mass, and he was just like, right, he was mad for action again, and these stitches come. That's what they need, like, and that's senior football. I think there's a lot more in the boys. Like, Keane's playing consistent. Keane and Aaron O'Neill again have been very, very consistent, very hard to mark. Stephen Morris has been excellent around midfield. He gave an exhibition against Grahamore last week. But the management, in fairness, they're on it. They're playing a real good brand of football. We just haven't seen them heights yet, and like Rain only back into the fold. Like we said last week, missing Oisin O'Neill and Callum Comiskey as massive leaders on the pitch. So couple of guys come back from America, and then Liam's brother. So Liam took that hit, and then last week you had Pierce done the ankle in, and like we've just been real bad luck. In fairness to us, but hopefully it'll come right at the right stages. Now I'll call a spade a spade. We're lucky enough now the group that we're in. There's no point in saying if we had been in Group A or Group B, the way things have gone, you wouldn't have got away with some of the things we've got away with, and that's no disrespect to the Peters. They're a brilliant club, and they're trying to foot two teams down there, and they're doing well, and they're trying really hard to progress. They've just been unlucky with results this season, but I tell you, we get out of jail. There's no point in saying, and we'll just sort of have to suck it up and get ourselves ready for the final day. But we have been a wee bit fortunate now, to be honest, with the group that we've been in, and we're going to need to improve if we're going to tackle this championship, to be honest.
And Silverbridge and Greenmore, the other two teams in that group, they play the day, so we'll discuss them later. In Group B then, the Oaks and Madden had a fairly comprehensive win over the Oaks at Pearse Oak Park on Saturday night, 4-19 to 1-8 was the final score. 4 goals for Madden, 2 coming from Joe Sheridan, both in the second half, and Darren McMullen and Aaron McKenna hit the goals in the first half as well. So Madden were disappointed last week, Johnny. That they obviously lost that big first round game against Killeavy by a point, but they've bounced back and they'll be happy. They'll be happy with the 2 points they've gathered here.
Yeah, they will, and look, there would have been big favourites coming into this game, and that's no disrespect to the Oaks, but it was still a big local derby. You know, that man Conor Grimley has been, you know, any league game, any championship game, any year, it doesn't matter. He lives up to the billings as always, and he's consistently scoring, you know, 8 or 9 points from him. Like Joe had a serious performance. He got 2-3, you know, so like they needed to deliver. They got Everton through at them last week. It was a serious game of football last week with them and Killeavy. And like everybody knows, you go down into Killeavy, it's not soft going in there to try and get a result. Never mind play them anywhere else, but even down there. So we touched on that last week. But Joe Watt is very, very positive. The backs is to the wall. Darren McMullen's been back. He's been, you know, a massive step in the right direction. Niall Grimley, very consistent as well. Probably didn't have his best game last week, but really stepped it up this week. But for me, Conor Grimley, you know, he's a real stalwart at especially at senior level, and he's consistency all the time. And that's what's if Madden's going to go serious in this championship and going to really try and get back to semi-final stage or even a county final, they're going to need them players really stepping up week in, week out. And look at they've delivered the backs to the wall, so they're going to go out and target another game now next week. And probably for Oaks now, to be honest, you know, it's been a tough year, a tough campaign. Like we spoke about it last week, still depending on Paul Duffy, you know, who's been an unbelievable servant to the Oaks, you know, but it's a very tough in senior football, and certain things you might get away with at a wee bit lower. You're not going to get away with it up there, especially this year. For me, this year's championship has been immense, and it's been very refreshing. Probably better than it's been now in a good few years, Sean. So I tell you, I'm excited. I don't know about you, but I'm excited to see what teams is going to be in the mix now come playoffs.
Yeah, that's the exciting bit, that it's been so brilliant, and we're only in the second week of the group, so there's going to be so much more thrills and spills before all said and done. We go down to intermediate then, Johnny, and you sort of touched on it earlier. The big story in intermediate, one of the big stories of the weekend, is Tullysarn going out of the championship. They lost to Wolf Tones last week. They suffered a 6-14 to 3-14 defeat to Clonard Seconds on Friday evening, and then Wales in that same group beat Wolf Tones 2-19 to 0-18. So that means Clonard and Wolf Tones both have head-to-head advantage over Tullysarn, and Shane O'Neill's earned 4 points. So even if Tullysarn beat them next week, they can't save themselves. So an incredible turn of events here, Johnny, for the league champions to crash out after just 2 games.
Yeah, I tell you, it really is a story of the intermediate championship, and anybody I've been talking to, even like I said about the mass last night, we were up on. It's people weren't even talking about senior football; they were talking about Tully Saran. They couldn't believe it. Like you have one round left in the championship and they're gone. Like it's actually unbelievable. Like what really has happened there, or they took things for granted coming into a championship after a serious league performance. Now, it has to be said as well, Shane O'Neill's have really turned things around as well. Like they had a topsy turvy league, and the backs us to the wall, and they've got a couple of county players back, and even the big man himself even got a goal for Shane's. So and then Rory, I think, hit 8 or 9 points for them, like a massive performance by them. So Shane's has put themselves in a serious position as well now, coming into the mix now in the last game, and they're going to be targeting a quarter final spot as well. It makes one edge of that group very interesting, because Wolf Tones had a serious win last week.
Well,
A serious
that's changed through to the quarterfinals, Johnny. They've
Is it
topped the
all?
group. They can't be
They topped
caught.
it already. Yeah, sorry. I was thinking that there would be it could actually be come down to the last day for it, but they've topped it, right? So that's even better again. They have a couple of weeks break now to get into their lads and get things right for a serious tackle at this championship. And like even when I was over there, you knew the Shanes had the players. It was only a matter if they could get them all on the field and get everybody fit. And the county men is very, very important. Like what Greg and the Mackins brings to the table here, and their leadership is phenomenal. And if Rory O'Brien's on song, he's very, very hard to stop. And we're seeing that there with the results. Now, I tell you what, the Tones is a very hard team to put away, and they done it. They done it very, very convincingly the weekend. And that I wouldn't have thought it now, to be honest, a few weeks ago. But Shane's is going to have a big say now in this championship, and Tully's aren't gone. I tell you, they really could be the dark horses here in this championship. Um, and you wouldn't know. We might see them and St Paul's going at it now again. Now going down the track side, that could be something to really spark off this championship if they meet maybe in the likes of a quarter final or semi final coming down the road here, Sean.
Yeah, that would be tasty, all right,
Yeah,
if
it
it
would.
comes to it. The other big result then involved Ballymacnabb and Derrynews. Obviously, Johnny and I let you discuss this one. A late goal from Conor McNally won the game 116 to 115 for Derrynews. It was nip and tuck throughout really. Ballymacnabb did go four up at one stage, and a couple of 2 point frees from John Joe Hughes got Derrynews back in touch. Ballymacnabb went 2 points up later on in injury time, and then McNally's goal obviously snatched the win for Derrynews. So a big win here for Derrynews.
Yeah, and this is a player that's been well. Look, Connor's been always consistent, but John Hughes has been a revelation for Derry News, and again it was a battle of accusers as well there. Like your man hit 7, and John Joe hit 9, which is serious tipping at that level. Look, I think it's probably one that just left behind you. To be honest, you probably should have seen the game out, the nab, but look, at full credit to Derry News, is a serious performance by them. Like, and I think I was down getting a local jobs here. I'm not far. I'm stuck in the middle of the 2 years, and the crack always being there was a lot of people talking about that game and looking forward to that game. And I think they said like Derry News was 2-1 or maybe 9-4 or something. Like that's how heavily favourites the nab was. And like even I thought you would take care of business, and that's no disrespect to you, but or to Derry News, but you just left it a bit tight now coming into the last game, and you're going to need to rally a wee bit to try and get something out of this. Like that group has got very tight now all of a sudden going into the last week. So it's again, we've called it in Group A and Group B in the senior, and the intermediate has lived up to the billings as well, and a few of the junior which we're going to kick on as well. So It's the juniors now read up this weekend. A couple of games today. I think there's two or three games today in junior, and we'll see what sort of pans out there. But the intermediate has another week, which is an exciting week, and then we have a couple of week breaks. So we'll see how it goes. But yes, you're going to need the rally, and you're probably going to need to try and get a couple of key players back in the field, Sean, for me.
Yeah, that's Group D on Sarsfields and Tierno playing Group D the day as well, so we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Group A then in the intermediate, Johnny Katie got back to winning ways. They excuse me, they beat College Land 217 to 112, while White Cross and Forkhill it was postponed. Abandoned on Friday night. There was an injury to a White Cross player, so the game was abandoned and it'll be played on Tuesday night. So we don't really know how this group's going to pan out until then. But Katie getting back to winning ways, a good win over College Land for them.
Yeah, look, Katie needed the rally big time, especially after the performance last week. By all accounts, we talked about personnel, we talked about different guys in key positions for them, and it didn't pan out. And Simon McGeary was back this week, and he was going down to his old club in College Land. I knew the boys inside out. They needed a performance. They needed to do it. And in fairness to them, they went down and got the job done. It was a convincing win. Probably come out a wee bit scathed now, to be honest. I think James King maybe got picked up a serious knock again, which Katie don't need, especially with one win on the board and going into the last week. They need another good performance. So they have a couple of serious, exciting players. We James McCormick, serious player. Which is I'm getting mixed up. Oh yeah, sorry, getting mixed up on another exciting player. But and then obviously a big one for me if Katie can manage to get him in the field is Galvin. Which is an unbelievable player. If they can manage to get him on the field, I think he's probably contracted with the soccer, but he'd be an exciting player in this championship. And it could be the difference in Katie going to run in this championship and not for me. Now, the group they're in, to be honest, isn't too difficult a group. I'd expect them to come out of it, especially after the win in College Land. I think there will be a dangerous team in the playoff. But if they want to kick on really in this championship, they're going to need the likes of James King back fully fit. And they're going to need Galvin for me. Exciting, very exciting young player coming up. He's electric. He's a serious finisher. And that's what I think they need in there. Because you can't depend on one or two. Donnelly had a serious game against College Land. Ryan had a serious game. To be honest, Kieran McCooey got sent off was early on in the game. Went to fist the ball came in, it was a bad pass. The brother actually sent him sideline, bad pass, went in with the fist and just missed the ball and caught the man side the head. Look at it was accidental now, in fairness to him, and you can get a yellow card from, but unfortunately he picked up a red, and that was massive for Katie as well, with 14 men for a lot of the games. So it was still a convincing win, and they went about their business well after probably letting the game slip, to be honest. Talking to a good few of them and stuff, probably let a game slip last week, but it was an encouraging win. And I think to be honest with you, I could see them on 4 points. I could see no matter what happens in this game on Tuesday night, I think Katie will probably kick on now after that. But if they're going to run the championship, like I said, I think Galvin could be instrumental to them.
Yeah, we'll move on to the junior then. Johnny, you said there the junior group stage was wrapped up this week. There's two groups wrapped up before Sunday. So we'll go into Group B. We'll touch on yourselves. You beat Thomas Davis. Cross seconds, that is, beat Thomas Davis 2-9 to 0-6. So that leaves you top of the group and into the quarterfinals. Thomas Davis comes second. Killeavy seconds are third in the group. They beat Mullabrack 4-24 to 4 points, and that's Mullabrack out of the group. So obviously yourselves and Thomas Davis, that was the big one. Johnny, it was a straight shootout to get to the last 8, and you edged it.
Yeah, look, we went our business we went about it very well. We targeted early on. Now, it has to be said, Thomas Davis didn't just land with the strongest team as I thought they're going to land. Geordie King is one of the main men for them. He had a bit of an injury. I was actually chatting to him after the game, and he's contracted as well, a serious soccer player. But he had a bit of an injury, so he wasn't. But like, it was a wise decision not to risk it. It wasn't a knockout. Either way, they were going to be in a playoff. They'd won their first two games convincingly, so I think it was a wise decision by Jordan. So look, it wasn't pretty. It was awful, ferocious conditions. The field was rock hard with the weather we've had, and it rained from probably an hour before the game. It was treacherous. It was slippy. There was men on their ass, left, right, and centre. It wasn't that pretty a football, to be honest. But our first half performance was probably the best first half that I've seen us all year. And we were ruthless in the first half, and that's what really done the damage. The second half, both teams, to be honest, was poor enough. It got slippier, it got worse, and the rain only stopped with probably 5 minutes to go. But I think we only kept them in maybe a point or two in the second half, which was, the defence was excellent, very good around the middle. Bernard Cassidy was excellent. Bernard showed flashes of what he can do. He's a senior quality player, and he was absolutely excellent for us yesterday. So, look, we'll take it. Like I said, it hasn't been pretty. We probably haven't played the best of ourselves, but look, we're into a quarter final. But like, calling a spade, to be honest, Sean, we've been fortunate with the group we've been in, and as we're going to touch on now about one of the other groups, it was helter skelter. So. And something that nobody's seen coming, which I'm looking forward to that conversation. As we spoke about, but that we'll do that later in the day. But I can't ask for nothing more. We're into a quarter final, and that's refreshing for even a man at my age.
Group D, Johnny, then Clonmore, obviously through the quarterfinals as well. They beat St Peter's seconds 8-22 to 111. That's Clonmore top and St Peter's their third in the group. Claudia are second. They beat Killian 2-12 to 0-8. And Clonmore, Johnny, three huge wins here. Obviously they're one of the favourites for the championship anyway before the championship even started. But are they going into the quarterfinals untested? These three games, do you see it as a positive or a benefit? I mean, they've scored 20 goals and 63 points in three games, which is obviously huge. But the fact that they've been putting away teams so easily, is that a good or a bad sign, do you think, heading into the knockout stages?
Funny, that is a serious question, because it's something that I was thinking about when I heard the result. I was coming back down the road last night, and I got the result of the phone, and I was like, I was thinking that same thing. Are they coming in undercooked? They're coming in, haven't been tested, and then you have the scenario now where you've probably 90% sure you could have definitely one big gun, but you could have two big guns now fighting off in playoff, and either ourselves or Clonmore or somebody is going to pick up one of them, because you're not going to be fit to meet anybody that's in your group. So that your percentages goes up of who you're going to get. So they could be tested in the quarter final, which they haven't been tested yet. Now, they're very, very good at reading out the middle. They set it up very, very well, and they come down through the middle at serious pace. And Brandon Donaghy has been instrumental around organising that there, in there. And that's where the goals is coming from. They're very good at overloading on sides and down through the middle at serious pace. And Quigley coming from 6 down there at serious pace is and they have a work to a T. Whereas if he goes and Donaghy would sit on the defensive end to cover the house, and the way they work it is brilliant. And they're very well drilled, they're very well organised. They have a good solid defence. Rory's in there, full back, strong as a horse, good honest players, and they have a good mixture throughout the team. And they have height, they have strength, they have the know-how. They were my favourites, and I said it early on to you, they were my favourites coming in for the junior championship. I think they're far too strong to be a junior. Which on the flip side of that, the two of us came down together last year from intermediate. Whereas I do think Cross, to be honest with you, I think Cross is a junior team. Whereas I do think that Clonmore is an intermediate team, and that's only from the battles we had with them, and the real battle hardened. So I would be a wee bit concerned that they're coming in undercooked if they do meet one of the probably top four, let's say, in the championship. If they met the likes of a Ballyhagan with their two players back, which that scenario will probably pan out. I think that O'Hanlon's, I suspect, will be in the quarter final, and you're going to have the other two big guns in there, and even in Middletown, like Middletown's a serious outfit as well. If they get everybody on the pitch, big strong team as well. So it's all about a defensive structure, which Ballyhagan has a defensive structure, which you mightn't just get in as easy for the goals. So what happens, Clonmore, if the goals dry out? Do you know what I mean? If you don't get in as easy, but they are creating them and they are getting them. And hey, this is only the ones they're scoring, and many other ones have they missed. Do you know what I mean? So I still think they're going to go a long way in this championship. They're still the favourites for me. And I don't think the likes of Brandon Donaghy and these boys are that soft. I don't think they'll be that easy caught. And I think it's going to take a serious performance to beat them.
They're going to have, I agree with all that. They're going to have a massive, massive say in this championship. So, folks, that's all for part one. Moving through Friday and Saturday's action. There's 7, 8, 9 games on Sunday, so we'll catch up in Mullabone in part two. We'll try to go through everything as best we can. So we'll be back in part two. Me and Johnny will be in Mullabone, and we'll go through all Sunday's action. So welcome back to part two of the podcast. Obviously, as you can see, me and Johnny aren't in Mullabone and Cullyhanna. The game was abandoned. There was a serious injury inside the opening couple of minutes, and the game was abandoned. So we didn't think it was right to do the podcast in Cullyhanna. So decided to do it online again, and we wish the player all the best and speedy recovery. Hopefully he gets back on his feet and on the field as soon as possible. So Johnny, that leaves one senior game to discuss basically from the Sunday's fixtures, and that was Silverbridge. Bouncing back from last week's surprising defeat to St Peters. They beat Graham not 13-18. And again, this group, they're in the group with St Peters and Crossmaglen. It means that everything's going down to the last day. We knew that if Silverbridge had been beaten here, they would have exited the championship. So they've given themselves a massive chance. And Greenmore, they've lost both, so they have to beat St Peters now next week. So it's all going down to the last day.
Yeah, it's all coming down to the last day, and I wouldn't be surprised if even it goes to scoring difference the way this group's gone. But look, it was a good bounce back in fairness by the Bridge, albeit it wasn't, it seemed like perfect enough conditions for a game today. It was a beautiful day, a bit of a stiff breeze, mind you, over there in Mullabane, as we've seen just at the start of the game, but it wasn't a too high scoring affair. I'd say it was very, very cagey. Both teams was massively fighting for survival, Sean, to try and get a win. So it's unlike a couple of surprises that we've seen in Group 2 at senior and intermediate, we have this one going down to the wire, and you couldn't call who's going to come out and who's going to be still in the championship at this stage next Sunday evening.
It's crazy, Johnny, that Silverbridge maybe written off on certain quarters after last week. They've had a poor league campaign, relegated, beaten by St Peters. But the way it all is all panned out now, if they win against Crossmaglen on the final day, they'll top the group. So it's nuts what one win can do for you.
Yeah, it's absolutely mad considering everything else. But a massive look at the massive thing for them was they were playing at home again, Graham. Albeit game finished 13-18, so 13-11. Like I said, I'd imagine it was cagey, but a crazy scenario that if a big local derby now next week and the shenanigans or whatever you want to call it from the first day, and it could end up being straight into a quarter final.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's the joys of the system, I suppose. As I said, that was the only senior game on Sunday. So intermediate, We'll go to Group C first because both Group C games were on Sunday. So Grange beat Balik away from home 3-18 to 111, and St Paul's beat Atmore away from home as well 3-13 to 15 points. So Johnny, I know you got to see a bit of this Balik and Grange game. The score Grange scored 322 last week. They posted 318 today. Like that's incredible scoring, and I suppose you're going to fill us in a bit about the scores and that. So incredible stuff from the Grange in the opening two rounds.
Yeah, and they were highly impressive. Like Ethan Rafferty had a horse of a game again around the middle. Um, Scored maybe, I think maybe 1 or 2 5. you know, got on the end of one. Very, very dangerous. Callum O'Neill actually for Blake was excellent as well, to be fair to him. I think he registered maybe 9 points. He kicked maybe 5 points, I think, the second half, and they're absolutely excellent, all from play. It was serious performances. Malin was absolutely excellent as well. For Grange, Grange then ended up being down to 14 men from probably, Sean, I'd imagine 20 minutes to go. And they stuck it rightly. You'd hardly noticed that he was really off the field, bar Callum getting up, getting a couple of scores. But it was very convincing there, to be honest. And it was just referee maybe made one or two harsh ones, either side, to be honest. That's a shout out to my uncle Kevin, by the way. He's going to love that. But yeah, look, I tell you what, it was a great evening for a game down there. It was perfect. There was a serious crowd at it. There was good appetite for football and good, honest, hard game of football I've seen there. And to be honest, I did really enjoy the second half in particular.
And St Paul's, obviously Grange defeated them the first day. St Paul's a lot of people's favourites for this competition. Going to Allochmore, a tough place to go, as we know, Johnny, but coming away with, I think it was about 6 or 7 points the difference in the end.
Three to 15, yeah.
Yeah, so good for them to get off the mark.
Yeah, and a big another team, I suppose, probably after week one, backs to the wall sort of job. And as you said there, Annickmore wouldn't be soft to go in there and try and get a comprehensive victory, and they've done that, and they've done it in good style. With like there's some tipping in 3-13, to be fair, and that's what we know from St Paul's. That's what we expect. They're very, very quick, very pacey in the forward line, dogged enough for it round the middle. They're a team, especially with a electric full forward line, that get you scores. And they're very, very good at working goals and goal opportunities. And like any day you score 3 goals in a championship game, you're doing something right. And normally, if you get 3, Sean, you're normally missing 1 or 2 as well, or the keeper will come off for a good save. You have to be creating them, So St Paul's are going to be in the conversation later on in this championship. There's no doubt about it. And whether whatever position they put themselves in, if that be a playoff or whatever, there's not too many teams that's going to fancy meeting them.
Yeah, that group's with Grange and St Paul's in it. It's a massive two big hitters in the intermediate, and I think Blake take on St Paul's next week.
Yeah,
Now they'll be fighting for
and
their
that,
lives.
yeah, absolutely. And that game, that I just looked at just before we come on here, I was just looking at the table on that. That group is still open.
Yeah.
Like anything can happen now the last day in that group as well. And we spoke of this last week when we said it was a massive entertaining intermediate straight out of the blocks. You had big teams turned over. We chatted earlier in part one about Tullysaran going into the last day, and now we have 2 groups here that's you couldn't call any of them. So I tell you, this intermediate has really lived up to the billings. It's been absolutely phenomenal in all quarters.
The Sarsfields, they had a big win against Tiernan. They won 4-17 to 114. So 12-point winners there. I suppose this was expected, Johnny, given the first round performances of both first round results that both sides had. Sarsfields get their away 2 away wins and they're at home. I know to Ballymcnabb next week, so they'd be happy enough with how they have started their championship campaign.
Yeah, look, it was massively expected for Sarsfields to go about their business here, and look at Tiernan Oak's back has been up against the wall. and without their talisman in Ashton Conaghy, was always going to be a major ask in a championship game, especially to have a go at one of the favourites here for the intermediate championship in Sarsfields. So it was a serious win. Them two teams wouldn't be a million miles apart down there either, and you'd imagine there would have been a right bit of needle in it, and a statement of content for me for Sarsfields to probably kick on here and be in the business end of this championship and send out a serious warning to the rest.
Yeah, I think Sarsfields, the likes of, I think Paul McGowan got 2 goals, Luca Donnelly got a goal, and Callum McGibbon as well. And we know from down through the years, even when we were playing at senior level, Johnny, they always carry that goal threat. And although they didn't score any against Derrynoose the last day, 4 goals, you don't be surprised seeing 4 goals chalked down beside Sarsfield's name.
No, and especially not whenever you have McGowan in round there. Like, cross-played them last year in the senior championship and got out by the skin of their teeth down there. It was a serious game of football down there. Armagh TV actually covered that one as well.
Right, yeah.
Very lucky to get out of there, and they are not a bad outfit. They're very physical, very strong, as you said there, alluded to. They're very good at working goals. If you have McGowan on form and you give him plenty of ball, he'd second you on his own, and he's not a guy that you're going to bully and push around the place either. So they've a couple of tidy footballers and good finishers, and yeah, I've called early on that I think they'll be very hard stopped in this intermediate, and they've sent out a good message there today.
Junior championship then, Johnny, and 2 more teams through to the quarterfinals and 2 more teams knocked out of the championship. And in Group C, it was all to play for. Portmore and Arogue faced off in winner takes all contest. The winner was going through to the quarterfinals, and the loser was going to finish second. The way it turned out, Portmore got through to the quarterfinals. They won 2-15 to not 17. While at the bottom end of that table, Newtown beat Darcy 12-10. So that's Newtown third in the group and Darcy out of the championship. So 2 big victories there for Portmore and Newtown.
Yeah, massive victory. That local derby would have been a good, like, obviously another cagey affair, a must-win game for either, and Newtown come out on top 12-10. But the other game now, I've done a right bit of homework on it, and on the way up the road there, and I saw chatting to a good few fellas was at it, and that Aerogue apparently will be kicking themselves that they're the best team, and they missed a couple of serious opportunities. There was a massive swing to the 3-on-2 coming in at the goals, and probably looked like a bit of a foul and never got it, and ball turned over and straight down the field for a 2-pointer and stretched the game out to 5, and there was only, stretched it out to 4, whatever. There was only 2 points in it at the time for a goal chance. So Aerogue, that it's not an easy place to go to Portmore and try and get a victory, and that was a winner take all for a quarter-final spot. Now they will have home advantage, going into the playoff, but I think Aerogue could be dangerous. Sean, there's not too many teams going to want to play them. They're missing a key player right around the middle of the day as well. Wasn't available today, so like they're going to be thereabouts in this junior championship. And there's a couple of teams in this playoff. Like you have Ballyhagan's going to be in it, you have Aerogue's going to be in it, and you have Middletown's in it. Like probably speaking about the other game as well, which you were actually sending notes to, but the Middletown goalkeeper pulled off massive saves in it as well. So these playoffs are going to be some tasty games coming at us here now. It'll be interesting just to hear the draw actually for the junior. And to be honest, it's like the senior, intermediate, and junior this year. Like people probably get sick of us harping on about it, but like they have lived up to expectations, and it has been an excellent championship across the board. And any man wants to try and tell me who's going to win, hey, good luck to him. Because I looked at the thing earlier, and there was, out of 5 favourites there was 4 of them all turned over. So it's definitely lived up to it. The Harps one was massive. Cruppen was serious, big underdogs there, and Harps got turned over. So hey, if any man wants to call it, he's better than you and me.
I do think I'll buy Johnny attempting it, but Group A was where all the action was from the very first day. as you said, Middletown and Ballyhagan were they're two of the big hitters. They remain two of the big hitters, two of the favourites for the competition. But they didn't top the group. It was Redmond O'Hanlon's who topped the group for their 3 games unbeaten. They beat Ballyhagan in the first round, drew with Middletown, and they beat the Sunderland today 3-15 to 1-8. While Ballyhagan they claimed second place. They beat Middletown 2-14 to 2-11. And what an achievement this is, Johnny, for Redmond Hollins. And I was at the game today and speaking to a few of them, Brian Canavan and different ones at the Andy Waters and different people at the ground. And you could get a sense of what this meant to them because there were dark days for O'Hanlon's in the recent history there. Just days maybe not being able to field at league games, coming up with 12, 13, 14 men, not winning. And I know it was only a couple of years ago they didn't win a league or championship game. So to turn that around, they've a bunch of young fellas breaking through now. The likes of Darren McNulty scored 2-11 today. Ryan Cookson only scored a point, but he was probably the best player in the field. We've seen Adam Canavan as well. So for them to turn things around in a very tough group, it must be said, and top that group, it's a massive achievement for them.
Yeah, look, McNulty is absolutely a quality young player coming through. Underage Armagh player as well. Probably I think he might have been captain. Might have been, was
Captain,
he?
yeah.
Yeah, captain, like a serious leader, and you can see that what he's bringing for any man to turn around and score that there. Like even in a junior game, junior championship, it's a serious performance, and he's putting up big performances week in week out, and he has been one like them couple of guys you mentioned, but he's been instrumental to some of these victories that they've got because he's consistently getting scores, so it's massive, and as you alluded to there, it's not actually that long ago. It's not 5 years ago that Andy was actually sending out a message to try and get players that they were reaching out to try to, these are guys, good, honest GA supporters and GA men was trying to keep the club going, and for them to turn around, as you alluded to there, and against all odds in an extremely tough group and find themselves now in a quarter final of the championship and top the group, it's it is the story of the championship across the board, like when we talk about the likes of a Tully Saran being put out of a championship, and then you talk about a romantic story like this for a team that could hardly field a couple of years ago, it's very refreshing. But it goes to show you what a wee bit of work and a wee bit of talent and a wee bit of belief and leadership does. So O'Hanlon's, they're going to be dangerous to have the forwards. To have a couple of serious players scattered throughout the field. And I think they could take another scalp before this championship's over.
Yeah, well, they're there, so they'll
Yeah.
definitely they'll contest it anyway. Whoever they get in the quarterfinal, and Ballyhagan and Middletown, obviously they're going through the playoffs, Johnny, and again, two teams that will find themselves hoping to be in the latter end of the championship. And I know, James McCormick and Peter McGrain were both back for Ballyhagan today, and it's no coincidence that they get one over Middletown with the two boys back.
Yeah, and McCormick probably unlucky. He didn't get a goal there. And then they had to pull Peter McGrain. Actually, the centre half back got hurt, and they pulled Peter McGrain back and put him at 6. Which is a serious like a county player to be operating at that level. And his leadership, he's going to bring. Probably need a wee bit of football with the lads. The two of them only back, so it could take them a couple of games just to get fully up to speed, I'd imagine. Look at fitness and all that'll be fine, and the way of playing and stuff like that. But just playing with their own boys again and stuff, because like okay, McCormick have been about, but Peter McGrain's been with the county all year, so it'll take him a few games to get into stride with the club, and probably in the playoff, it's not going to do them any harm. They're going to play an extra game, albeit it'll be interesting to see the draw, but still they're going to be there on the business end around semi-final stage, you'd imagine. And they are one of the contenders for this championship. I wouldn't be that annoyed for either Ballyhagan or Middletown. Middletown's the same. They're very strong outfit. They're very good. They're actually thought they probably should deserve to take something away from this game today too, and there wasn't a pile in it in the end. I think maybe 3 points in the end, 2 or 3 points. So look at they're going to be in the shake-up as well. Probably a big thing for Middletown might just depend on the hurlers and as they go down the stretch here into this championship and maybe keeping a couple of guys fit. But They're a big, strong unit. They have good pacey forwards, a lot of pace in the half back line as well. They're going to be dangerous. Probably a miss from there is big Marty Maguire, who was on crutches there today. I think he might have got an operation maybe on the foot or whatever, so or the ankle. So he'd be a massive miss for him, especially at this level. Because he's the sort of guy, Sean, that he can win ball around midfield the way the game has gone, or he's a serious man to put in the full forward either, and can win ball in there, especially if you're going to get in the tide as such, and you need to try and chase a game, So listen, them two teams are going to be in the conversation for this junior championship as we go down the stretch. And look, I don't think whoever get in the playoffs, whatever, they'll fancy their chances, and there's not too many teams that want to play them in a quarter final. And I, for one, is I'm in that boat.
We'll get your reaction for the draw. Johnny just got it here. It's Thomas Davis against St. Peter's Seconds. We have Claudia and Newtown. Ballyhagan against Killeavy Seconds, and Ogue against Middletown. So a couple of big games they're going to be played next weekend. Your reaction to the draw, Johnny? Those four games.
That I tell you, Killeavy probably had a poor outings there on the second game against Thomas Davis, but I was impressed with them when they played against us. I thought they were, they had a right bit about them. The bit of pace, they can create goal chances. They were dangerous enough, and look at Ballyhagan should be too strong for them, but it'll still be an interesting game. I tell you, they wouldn't want to take anything for granted there. And I tell you, that other game is mouth-watering game there. Middletown and Ogue is going to be a clinker. These are two teams that's very evenly matched. Shamie O'Callaghan's over Ogue, and he'll have his homework done to the last. They'll have the main midfielder will be back the next day. They'll fancy their chances. This will be a serious game. I think I'll be making my business to get to that one. That seems to be the game of the draw for me. And look at, I'm still going to stick to it, Sean. I'd fancy Thomas Davis, and I'd fancy Middletown and Ballyhagan to get to the quarterfinals, and we'll see who's in the shake-up after that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. As I said, they're all taking place next weekend, as are the final round of group stage fixtures of the senior and intermediate championship. So we'll be back hopefully on Thursday. We'll have another preview show, and we'll look ahead to all those games. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks once again to the likes of Kieran Lynch, Shannon Moley, Michael Lavery sending me in match reports. Definitely couldn't do it without them. There's too many games on, so big shout out to them. And thanks to Johnny for coming on and giving us his thoughts of everything that happened across Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we'll be back hopefully on Thursday, and we'll chat to everybody then.